In a world where paramotor helmets often run into the I'm not doing that voice, no. Are you weary of super expensive Bluetooth helmets? Do you want the best hearing protection available? Are you sick of not being able to talk to your buddies? Your instructor? Want to see the easiest, cheapest, most noise-reducing, radio-equipped paramotor helmet guide on YouTube? Well, now you can. Using revolutionary e-commerce technology, we've created the perfect first helmet build guide. Simple, cheap, with good communication and unrivaled hearing protection installed. So sit down, subscribe to the channel, like this video, and see the parts list in the description below. Building this is pretty straightforward and easy. Should take you about an hour, hour and a half tops for anybody halfway decent with their hands. These are all the parts and tools needed. Of course, we've got the helmet. This one is a Turbo Ski brand. I chose this because of its price point, but also because it's not required to cut the ears out. So I've already used this on my cheaper helmet build, which you can see here, where I discuss whether or not you need Bluetooth on your helmet. Same helmet, but this is of course a fresh build. So we've got that. The one thing I didn't cheap out on were the earmuffs. These are 3M brand Peltor 31 decibel reducing earmuffs. Those are the best that I've found available. They are hard hat mounts, not over the head bands. And you can see this side still has its hard hat mount in place. This side I've already taken it off. It's a single Phillips head screw. Then we've got the headset. This is actually for a open face motorcycle headset, and it's meant for Kenwood radios. And the radio we've chosen today is the Baofeng UV5R, which has very good range and reception, though I do have to warn, in the United States you technically do need a ham radio license to be able to operate this. As far as hardware, it's pretty simple. We've got two M5 by 25 bolts. Those are going to hold our muffs on. I've got 6 M5 washers, so 3 for each side. And I have 2 M5 nuts. And we're also going to use a little bit of Loctite on the nuts. If you can find locking nylon insert nuts, those are preferred. As far as tools, it's a number 2 Phillips screwdriver to take off the hard hat attachments, a drill with a 3/8 and 3/16 inch bit, the 3/16 to drill the hole for the bolt itself, the 3/8 to cut out the foam around where the bolt needs to go, and a socket for the nuts. In this case, this is an 8mm. So first things first, we're going to cut out the helmet if it's required, slide the earpieces on, and see if we can get the hole marked. So this is a Giro quarter helmet. This is the same helmet that Tucker Gott uses, and this was my very first helmet. You can see I did not take off the hard hat attachments, instead I used screws. It works, and I'm going to leave it alone, but just to illustrate here, you can see how much of the helmet I had to cut out to make these muffs fit. These are the same earmuffs that we're using on today's build. Most helmets, I imagine, you're going to have to do that, but not on this one. For the helmet itself, we want to make sure we're getting a BMX or snowboarding style, not the very small, lightweight shell, like bicycle riding type. We want to be able to drill and mount onto this with a thicker, harder plastic shell. If you haven't already, go ahead and take off the hard hat attachment. It's a single Phillips head screw, and you'll get the actual base with a small cap. You want to keep these two things together. Our screw is going to go clean through there. With your helmet strapped on and comfortable, you're going to want to line up your earmuffs so we can figure out where to put the hole. I'm using a pick to scratch, or you can use a really long fine tip felt pen or Sharpie if you have one. I don't. We want to make sure that the snap, you want to make sure that the hard hat mount isn't clipped down. It's hard to do, but clipped out. The earmuff itself slides up and down along these rails. Go ahead and slide it almost all the way down, probably leave a quarter of a third of its movement available. You're just going to hold it up to your ear, and this is about there. Make sure that's going to go over and cover your ear. Mark a spot. Obviously that's easier to do with help, and I'm sure it looked funny, but I've got a hole marked on the side of my helmet, and we're going to drill it out with the smaller drill bit. Try to make your hole perpendicular to the surface. Nice and slow. We're going to go all the way through to the inside of the helmet so that we know where to make a bigger hole in the foam. Now with the bigger drill bit, I found it easier to do this part by hand. Actually just find the hole that we made with a smaller bit. We're basically just going to ream it out. So in the end, we should have a small hole on the outside and a much larger hole on the inside so that our nut will sit down into the foam, and the screw will actually grab onto the plastic and not the foam. Otherwise it'll wear out and get kind of jiggly. Mounting the muff is pretty easy. We're going to make sure that we have both of these pieces put together. And I'm going to put a washer between every single piece. So we've got the bolt through a washer, through the earmuff, with another washer, through the helmet, and down in that hole that we just made, another washer, and then the nut. We're going to Loctite this nut when we put it on. So in the end, on one side it should look something like this. It can be moved side to side. This of course telescopes up and down, it clicks in and out. And that bolt is tight enough to let it swing with some force but not just flop around. Now we do the same thing on the other side. Alright, with both earmuffs on, I really think that was the hard part. So the rest of this is pretty simple stuff in my book. We're going to be installing the headset. So this headset I've got comes in two pieces, and the screws right in the middle. This is a push dock button and the radio connector. Right now, we don't need that part. So we're only focusing on the piece that actually goes into the helmet. And actually installing this is pretty simple too. We'll want the cable to come out of the back of the helmet so that we can use it left or right side, whichever side you feel like throwing your radio down. So expect this chunk to end up here. That gives you a pretty good idea of what speakers need to go to what side. So you're going to have a lot of extra slack, and that's where this comes in. This is the loop half, the fuzzy half of Velcro. We're going to use this like tape. Do not use Gorilla Tape, do not use duct tape. It's not the same stuff. This holds better than any of that, and it's a little cushion, so you'll get some padding. Otherwise, on a hot summer day, that other tape will start to melt off, and you'll get your hair stuck inside the helmet on the adhesive of your peeling tape. You don't want that. So these speakers will just friction fit into the earmuffs. The microphone, I'm a fan of putting inside the sweatband kind of area. So we'll carve out a little spot for that there instead of having to drill into the muff, because remember, we're trying to be simple about this. So what we're going to go for is a bunch of foam carving, and if we can, running the wires behind any of this foam padding that's already installed. So let's get to work. So with that little chunk taken out, we can now lay the split where all the speakers part ways in there. Kind of Push it all in. There's the microphone. There's one speaker. There's the other speaker. This junction is going to go right here. So we'll take a piece of our Velcro, cut it to size and use it like tape to hold it there. Nice and easy. Now if you'd like, you can fill this with glue. I wouldn't recommend hot glue if you live in a warm climate because it can eventually start melting. Something rubbery like E6000 would probably be a good bet. So now we're going to go ahead and place a speaker. They are directional, so this side that has the adhesive is meant to be stuck to the inside of a helmet. We don't really have to do that though because these speakers that I've picked out wedge really nicely into the earmuffs with no help. So basically just put them at an angle, flatten them out. There you go. It's impossible to see because it's black on black in a hole, but it's in there. I don't drill separate holes for these wires. Again, we're trying to get out simple. I've heard you can also take the actual silicone or rubber off of the muff, run it under and put it back on. I've never had to do that on any of my helmets and I've never even noticed they're there. And we do have to take up the slack, so we're going to hide it under this foam and then use a piece of our Velcro again to hold down all this extra length of wire. So you see, it doesn't have to be anything glamorous. We're just trying to hold the wires down so they're not flopping around. So that one's in. Let's move to the next side. See, just as simple. Then we're going to come on forward with our microphone, cut out a gap up here in the band for it, and get that mounted up. And that's pretty much it. So we're going to put another piece of Velcro over this just to hold it in place, but the force of your big thick skull pushing against the helmet will probably keep it from moving around too much. Okay, there you go. One helmet, wired connection for a Baofeng two-way radio, microphone, 2 earpieces all set up.
Alright guys, that's all I've got for today. Sorry about the audio, this doesn't have my normal GoPro mic on it. Hope you liked the video. As you can see, it's a working helmet, I'm flying with it. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, you know how YouTube goes. Hopefully you can hear me screaming at the phone. Have a good day, we'll see you next time.